this whole program is resolved around distinguishing these young adults from their peers, right? Giving them tricks and tools and methods and strategies to separate themselves from their peers and just promote higher visibility. Because you know as well as I did, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. I don't care so much what's on paper when I own a business and I'm interviewing somebody. What I care about is how that person interacts with me. Mm-hmm. I care about eye contact. I care about handshakes. I care about being asked questions. I care to know that that person is well prepared coming in and asking good questions. So all those things matter, and that's really what we teach.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show that tells the story of renegade entrepreneurs who bet it all on their passion. I'm your host, Jason Skisic, and I'm a serial entrepreneur on a mission to build a community of entrepreneurs just like you who don't see their reflection in day-to-day life. Each week, I sit down with a visionary entrepreneur who saw the world as it could be and couldn't help but take action. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and review. This is the best way to stay in the loop if we drop new content. Sharing this podcast with friends is the best way to ensure we can keep making them and bring on more and more interesting guests. Today's guest is Anthony Fracchia. Anthony is the founder of Altruis Benefit, as well as Aspire Detroit, an organization helping underserved youth prepare for adulthood and launching great careers. This guy's doing God's work. He's chasing his passions. I'm super excited to present his story to you. So please enjoy my friend, Anthony Fracchia. Anthony, how you doing?
Very good, sir. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great, man. I'm super excited to have you. Anthony is the owner of Altruis Benefit Consulting, as well as there's a charity that you founded. What was the name of the charity again?
Aspire Detroit.
Aspire Detroit. And so tell us a little bit about what it is that you do with Altruis and what it is that you do with Aspire.
Yep, absolutely. So Altruis, we are a licensed insurance brokerage group here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Started it with my dad back in like 2002-ish, 2003, and started mainly with personal lines. And it seemed like every time there was a regulatory change on the horizon, it was motivation for us to make sure we didn't have all of our eggs in one basket. So there's, your license, whether it's securities or insurance, allows you to sell a whole boatload of different products and services. So we started mainly with personal lines. We then evolved. There was some legislation on the books that was going to dramatically impact us revenue-wise on that personal business. Mm-hmm. So we started diversifying into the employee benefit market. So structuring, consulting, medium-sized businesses. I think our largest group clients, about 800 employees, smallest one's about 30. So we play in that space as well. And then, I don't know if you recall this, but it was, probably a good decade ago is when GM and Ford, I think GM was first and Ford was second or vice versa. They basically went to their retiree. They were looking at their legacy costs, from a pension and a retiree perspective. And so what they did was they said, listen, we're paying about $3,000 per person. That means per husband and spouse, each individually, per month for benefits. They didn't really realize there was a very affordable Medicare market. So they just kind of were transitioning, right? So GM did it first. And what they were doing is giving the people basically an allotment of money to use. Mm-hmm. And that thrust just tens of thousands of people in Michigan into the Medicare market, first with GM and then with Ford. So we got into that about a year or two ahead of time. And so our three main markets now are Medicare, employee benefit structuring, and personalized. So that'd be individuals and families under 65 that are responsible for covering their own insurance.
Wow, that's really interesting. I've never heard about that with GM and Ford, but that makes perfect sense. And I think we'll dig into that a little bit. And tell me a little bit more about the Charity Foundation.
So youth mentoring has always been a passion of mine. I've been in that space in one form or another for the better part of the last decade. Mm-hmm. I previously served on a board of a great charity called Threads for Success that I helped kind of get their 501 going or 503 going and, getting everything kind of rebranding, renaming and getting them out there. Aspire was kind of this idea I had where I wanted to kind of bring that to my board and say, hey, I think we can do more. We capture these young adults. Just to kind of give you a quick little update. Threads for Success, we had this one-day event every year where we collected donated, lightly used donated suits. It was in conjunction with Tom James, which is a men's clothier. It's a global men's custom clothier. And we would have this one-day event downtown. We have anywhere between 70 to 100 kids from Detroit high schools, juniors and seniors. Mm-hmm. And we do like a day of mentoring, right? They'd have different stations they would go to. One was like interview training. Like, here's how you prepare for an interview. Then we actually had Detroit business leaders in doing mock interviews with them after they completed that. Then we would do like what was called a first impression session. And that's where we taught them how to take care of a professional outfit, how to tie a tie, how to tie a bow tie, how to clean your shoes, and just do's and don'ts when you're putting an outfit together. And then at the end, we have this huge room set up like a men's warehouse, right? We have all the tailors from Tom James in there. And these kids actually go in and get a custom tailored suit experience. So they get to go to the rack. They'll speak with a tailor. They'll take them to the section where their size is. They pick a suit, a shirt, 2 ties. They get those suits. They go through the measuring experience. And then we take them, we tailor them, we put their name on the pocket, and then we deliver it to them before they graduate. So they have a professional outfit to go interview with. So great organization, but it was a one-day event. And so the idea from Aspire, I originally brought to that board, and they decided they didn't want to do it. And I just said, listen, this is one of those things, Jason, where like you have that idea in your head and you can't sleep. Like you're waking up in the middle of the night, like you're sending yourself emails, like don't forget to this, or here's a new idea. Yeah. And it's like, after like months of me doing that, I was like, guys, listen, I love you. Dude, incredible guys on this board. Big hearts, I just said, listen, God's calling me to do this and I got to do it. So, I love you guys, but I'm going to step down and I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out to one of the administrators that I used to work with. I pitched him the idea. He said, if you put this together, I'll give you a classroom to teach it in. So how it started was basically talking with colleagues, right? Business owners, and, talking about the young adults that are coming out of high school, coming out of school, mm-hmm. and how there's just a deficiency of what we believe to be very basic, but very critical soft skills. Okay. And so we believe that really the advent of technology, telephones, cell phones and apps and these different ways of communicating are taking away from the way we personally interact with each other. And when these kids actually get face-to-face in an interview, that shows itself, right? So rather than complain about it, I decided to do something about it. So we literally wrote a curriculum from the ground up that focuses on 3 main principles, or what we call aspirations: mm-hmm. personal, financial, and professional. Mm-hmm. So the personal starts out with general etiquette. We talk a little bit about dining etiquette in case they're ever in an interview setting that's in a restaurant. That happens a lot. We talk about identifying and embracing a core value system, why that's important to have, something to hold yourself accountable to. We talk about managing your reputation in a positive way, both in person and more specifically for this demographic online, mm-hmm. which is very, very important. We then transition into financial. Once we get that framework done, financials from top to bottom, right? This is what take-home pay means. Okay, now you know what you have left over after all this stuff gets taken out of your check. Now let's talk about operating and running a personal budget. Now you know what's left over for you to spend. And we have like the saves, pay, and spend, right? There's committed expenses and discretionary expenses. We explain that, right? You pay committed first, discretionary next. Then we talk about how to effectively save for short-term, medium-term, and long-term financial goals, right? Short-term goal would be, I need to get a car. Medium-term goal would be, I need to get a house or an apartment. Long-term goal would be, let's talk about retirement or saving money to put your kids through college. We talk about good credit versus bad credit and the actions that will end you up in both of those buckets, right? If you have bad credit, these are the things you can do to damage your credit. Here's things you can do to improve it. We talk about the dangers of credit card debt and consumer debt. We talk about basics of compounded interest, like little, again, not too high level, but enough to start to illustrate to them what sound financial habits are. And then finally, we talk about professional, which is writing an impactful resume, writing handwritten thank you notes after an interview, how to prepare for a interview, how to research that job, that company, the person, so you can find something that you can talk about that's outside of the parameters of the job to develop rapport. This whole program is resolved around distinguishing these young adults from their peers, right? Giving them tricks and tools and methods and strategies to separate themselves from their peers and just promote higher visibility. Because you know as well as I did, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. I don't care so much what's on paper when I own a business and I'm interviewing somebody. What I care about is how that person interacts with me. I care about eye contact. I care about handshakes. I care about being asked questions. I care to know that that person is well prepared coming in and asking good questions. So all those things matter. And that's really what we teach. If they make it all the way through, we actually started an internship program with our network of business professionals around the Detroit area. So we can go to them and say, hey, our young adults are coming out of this program with these skill sets. We're looking to have someone offer them a 90-day summer internship. It has to be paid. So they have a way to exercise those financial management tools that we've given them. And we get feedback every couple of weeks to make sure they're on track. And eventually we'd like to raise enough money where we can start to give them some money for college, if that's where they choose to go afterwards.
Okay. So normally I would wait until the very end of the show and I would say, how can people get a hold of you? But right now, all across the country, and hopefully if we're lucky, the world, people are listening to this. Most of them own businesses and every single one of them wants to see how they can help you expand this program. And so First of all, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you about this organization, where would they reach out? And then second of all, what would it take to expand this beyond just Detroit?
So the website is www.aspiredetroit. So that's ASPIRE Detroit.org. All the information on the program is there. You can donate. Obviously, we need financial donations to continue our programming. There's a number of ways that people can help. We're looking for business owners that have maybe a specific skill set in what we're teaching that can either join us live with some of our courses or even, evolve and do taking on some courses themselves so we can scale it. We're looking for employers specifically right now because all of our students are in the Detroit area that might have summer internships available that could help us out in that manner and help give these young adults opportunities for employment. We've obviously, we started this program literally the winter semester before COVID hit. So that threw a big monkey wrench as far as getting into classrooms. So we're working with some technology partners to figure out a better way to deliver this because the school systems, and I sympathize with them, right? They're bobbing and weaving with these different regulations. And are we masking our kids? Are we not? Are they in school or are they out of school? We're hoping that we're kind of past most of that, but we still don't know. And what we're finding is it's a challenge to get into these classrooms. So now we're thinking about ways to collaborate with some technology partners to kind of go right to the parents and right to the kids and say, this is what the program is. Here's when we're going to do it. It's free, but you have to apply for it. And if you apply, then we go through an orientation and we run the program. That makes it easier for us to schedule and get these professionals in with us so they can give them some real world advice and content. So we're in a bit of a transition. We're going to spend this summer working on that. But right now we're looking for businesses that can offer internships and financial donations that we can transition. Right now it's 100% of the donations go right to programming. We don't pay ourselves anything.
That's wonderful. I'm just so excited to hear about this. I just interviewed my friend David Cole before this, and David was an English teacher for Chinese and other Asian countries. And he's actually in the process of building what he calls the tutor resource. And so potentially maybe the platform, maybe I'll connect you guys after the call.
Yep.
But certainly people that are listening to this at home, like myself, are, on the edge of our seats. I'd love to help you guys spread the word on this and help build it as much as you possibly can. I
appreciate it, man. It's huge. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Of course. Not just that, but just the way that you light up when you talk about it. It's just, you can tell the whole reason that I started this podcast is for that moment, that crackle that comes over the conversation as soon as somebody talks about something that they're super passionate about. And we're going to go back. We're going to talk about your other business as well. And we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. But it was just so evident that you're doing the right thing and it's the right thing for you and you're on a mission. So anything that I can do or anybody else listening can do, we'll have the links to all that stuff in the show below. And then if anything is happening periodically over time, just let us know and we'd love to have you back on and talk about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Listen, man, I have a very strong faith and, I'm very grateful and blessed that I truly believe this is God's purpose for me long term. And there's some other things that you and I will get into to kind of illustrate why I believe that with respect to my company and the acquisition and some other things that seem to be kind of arranged in a manner that puts me in a position to do this work. And that's where the lighting up comes from.
Yeah, that's great. Man, I'll tell you what, I just love that so much. So let's do that then. So talk to me about your entrepreneur's origin story. Where did all this start from? Where were the seeds planted?
I got to say it was my dad, man. My father's been self-employed basically his entire life, right? So we're Italians. My dad started off with Italian restaurants for 30, 35 years, right? So when I was a kid, and I'm talking, I'm going to show my age here, Jason. I was a kid back in the 80s, right? When your dad, the Greeks did this a lot too, when they had restaurants, right? You got kids that can like walk and talk and go to the bathroom by themselves. They are eligible to work for you in your restaurant. So no joke, man. I mean, my cousins and my dad and my uncle, my cousins, I had three, male cousins and me. And they put us to work from like age of 10 on. And this was back in the 80s when you could get away with it. And so that's kind of where it started, just being a kid running around the restaurant, like watching my dad run this. I went to school here in Michigan. And after I graduated, I took a job with a major consulting firm, one of the big three, for about 5 years. And, I was super excited about it. It was a great job to get out of college, though. It was a great opportunity. I got to, travel the world and, really learn a lot of important and fruitful methodologies that they teach, their staff members. And so I was able to experience that, but it was incredibly bureaucratic. And over time, I realized that environment is just not an environment that I felt I could flourish in. Mm-hmm. And so, I basically, after about 5 years of that, I kind of stepped down from that role. I took about 6 months off and, thought about what to do next. My father, during that time, had left the restaurant business because I tell you, 35 years in the restaurant business, that's no joke, man. That's a tough racket. Yeah. And I can't even imagine doing that, through COVID and some of our restaurateurs and, some of them made them, some of them didn't. It's terrible to see what they had to go through. But my father transitioned to the insurance business probably about 3 years before I did. So when, he actually worked underneath, that was the first time he actually worked underneath somebody, which was difficult in his mid 50s, but he did it to learn it and it didn't take him long. And so when I was out there kind of, trying to figure out what's next, he's like, hey, you need to take a look at this model. I'd love to have you, working with me. So I checked it out, and it was a, residual revenue model, which is great. That means that, you take on customers and you get a percentage of those premiums each month. And so it was an opportunity, to join my father, which I really was excited about. I brought, a more corporate structure, management experience to the table. He brought the entrepreneurial spirit and experience to the table. And we were incredibly successful together. I bought him out about 6 years ago. And 2 years ago was approached by a publicly traded company to purchase our agency. And we solidified that deal September of 2019. And I am currently in my earnout with them.
Wow. Congratulations, man. I think for anybody listening, we all value how difficult and how satisfying it must be to ring that bell when the time comes.
Oh, yeah. And I had done the conversation a lot. I did this podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard Built to Sell with John Warlow. Okay. So I just did a podcast with him, went through the whole story and it was fun. But it's you go through this, you have these conversations, right? I think kind of once we grew to a certain revenue number that garnered some, visibility, obviously, in our market. So I was reached out to a number of times and I didn't know anything with that first call. Right? The dance, we're going down the rabbit hole. And then you find out there's a big non-negotiable that you should have thought of before you had that conversation. Mm-hmm. So I was things in line, first conversation. And then we decide, hey, if we're good, let's go. And if not, hey, appreciate the call, right? And so that's what I did over those first 3 pursuits. So it was pretty well defined what we needed, to entertain that. And the company that ultimately acquired us right out of the gates was fine with everything. And they've proven to be men of integrity and men of discipline. And very grateful that this was the team that we ended up selling to because I've learned a lot from them. And I respect them a lot. And together we've grown the business exponentially since I sold it, which is quite exciting.
Oh, that's really great. It's always good to hear that. I mean, first of all, shout out to Built to Sell, shout out to John Warlow. That's the book, that along with Traction, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. The books that I've always recommended to folks. Yeah, of course. And I would love to have both of those gentlemen on at some point. But to your point about selling to the right people, listen, there's so much more than just the number that somebody's going to offer you. You mentioned having an earnout in your agreement, the fact that they've been able to scale the business and take it to that next level. Sometimes it is better for the business, right, to take a step aside and put it with people that are going to bring it to that next level, whatever it may be. So happy to hear that from you. Were there any lessons that you learned along this process that you would want to pass on to people that might be listening right now? So somebody listening right now has a business and one day may sell it. Was there anything that you didn't see coming that books like Built to Sell didn't prepare you for?
There were a number of things in his most recent book. It is just an incredible manual. So first thing I would say is, if anybody listening is considering structuring or conditioning their business for an acquisition, read John Warrillow's book, because it is literally, he's got a picture of a roadmap and it is done. And I can tell you from experience, I did check off a lot of those boxes. There are a few that I missed. And the one that I missed that I think probably could have been very beneficial to me was his suggestion of basically making almost a cut sheet, right? Like a simple 1 or 2 page doc, which illustrates the financial value of your company, right? So what is your gross revenue? What are your cost of goods sold? How diverse is your customer base, right? Is 80% of your revenue with one customer? So that's a problem, because you lose that customer, 80% of the value of your business goes away. Mm-hmm. Not giving them too much detail, but enough for them to say, okay, we're interested. And then that is your document to then go shop around. And then with that document, you have the ability to transition and create a bidding war if you get multiple suitors involved. And I didn't do any of that. Now, I don't regret anything with what I did with my parent company, but those are some steps that I think were huge. As far as advice to anybody that's looking to exit a business, right? Or even if they're looking to start a new business with the goal of exiting it at one point. I'm a little bit OCD. So I think like this, intricate organization from a financial perspective was just something that's kind of ingrained in my brain, but I understand it's not in a lot of people. So my first suggestion would be condition your business to thrive without you there. And that's the first book that John Warrillow read, right? If you are the main person, right? You're the relationship person, you're the service person. If you're an army of one and you are eventually gone, that will devalue your business, right? So if you're not going to be there long-term, they're going to factor that in to the multiplier, however they're going to get whatever financial calculation they're going to use to evaluate you. So the first thing I would say is start to put yourself in a position where your company can thrive without you. And if that means you step up a little bit, that means you step up a little bit. Because longer term, unless you want to be part of that for the rest of your life, most people that do exit don't want to be there forever. They'll agree to an earnout, right? 2, 3, 4 years, but eventually you're not going to be there anymore. It's important for you to illustrate to your acquirer that this business can thrive without you. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is get a good CPA that's got experience in the mergers and acquisitions industry and start tuning up your P&L, right? I've since worked on a number of acquisitions for my parent company. The first thing I look at is the financials. And I can tell you, if you go to an acquirer and your financials are a mess, they're going to kind of look at it and be like, you know what, maybe tune this up a little bit and we'll have a conversation in a year or so. And what they're not telling you is very rarely are they ever going to come back, because the organization of your financials is a looking glass into the organization of your business. And if those are in poor shape, and that's the lifeblood of your business, right? Your financials are the lifeblood of your business. If those are in bad shape, that would illustrate to a potential acquirer that other things are in bad shape, and they don't want to find that out 6 months to a year after they acquire it.
Yeah, that's really sharp advice, and something that I think people don't think about very often. I think most entrepreneurs that I know are glass half full folks, right? And so we see our businesses as the beautiful butterflies that they are, but the two things that you hit there are really important. And one is to understand how much the business is revolving around you with the tribal knowledge that you bring to the table and the skill set you bring to the table, particularly when you talk about a service or relationship-based type industry. And then the second
most are, right? Most of them are.
Right, yeah. But, and then the second thing that you talk about cleaning up your balance sheet, talk to somebody. I spent a little bit of time in commercial lending, and I will tell you right now that an underwriter is going to look at your business a heck of a lot different than the way that you do. And so everybody wants to believe that their business is special and stands on its own. But when folks come in and they're going to identify risk and pull things out that maybe wouldn't be apparent. So I think those were really great pieces of advice. I appreciate the sharing of that.
Absolutely.
And so at what point, so mentorship, kind of going back to that, clearly very, very important to you. Was that something that played a role? Were you giving of your time? You mentioned your faith. Were you volunteering as a youth? When did mentorship start to play a role for you?
It started, so I was raised Catholic, right? So as a kid, like most people, my parents were Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I went to catechism. I did not like it. Like most kids didn't like it. I got confirmed. I remember having a conversation with my mother. I was like, why do I have to do all this? She's like, well, if you want to marry a Catholic woman in a Catholic church one day, you have to be confirmed. I'm like, what if I don't marry a Catholic woman in a Catholic church? Simple question from a child, right?
Yeah.
So, I was born and raised in the church. I kind of got away from it after, I'd say probably high school. I did study philosophy. I actually took it as a minor in college, fell upon Eastern religion, and really I came upon Buddhism and embraced that for the large part of my life. I was a huge fan of it. It was a religion that I didn't feel like I had to manipulate a lot of myself to fit into. I already agreed with a lot of the principles in it. It was just exciting to learn more about it. So I kind of embraced that as my religion for quite some time. And over, I'd probably say the last 3 or 4 years of my life, dealing with some personal family issues and things of that nature, had a friend invite me to go back to church with him. And I said, yeah. And I was Brightmoor Church on 13 Mile on M5. It's it's Christian church, right? But just fell in love with the church, the pastor, the message, very Bible-based, very prayer-based, very application-based, right? A lot of Catholic churches, my personal experience was they're very good at identifying scripture and talking about it. Not all of them are very well versed on the real world 21st century application of scripture that was written thousands of years ago. So the mentoring was something that I found a niche, right? I don't have kids. I'm not married. I don't have children. So I think that intuitively is maybe where I exercise those muscles, but started just with getting involved in charities and then finding out that this is just something that I light up for, right? It's just something that I found that I love to do. The kids that I've worked with over that time frame are incredible. Now young adults, I still maintain relationships with them. Once I started Aspire, there was an opportunity to deliver that program through my church with what's called the New Foster Care, which is an incredible organization that they partner with. The New Foster Care is a group that puts resources in place for young adults that age out of the foster care system and don't get adopted. So they felt that once they kind of delivered once these young adults were at a certain level to receive some of the information I was teaching, that we had an opportunity to meet with them. So we've been doing that for the past couple of years as well. But that kind of preceded, my fall back into the faith. And I think going back to the Christian faith and kind of reinvigorating and reestablishing my relationship with God has only furthered that mission, obviously.
Today's show is brought to you by HighLevel CRM. HighLevel is an all-in-one platform designed to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses without the need for multiple softwares or an IT team. Not only does their easy-to-use software allow you to track and manage your leads throughout each phase of the relationship, but it also allows you to build funnels, track stats, and more. Guys, I sat down and added up the cost of software I was able to replace with just one app, and it was over $1,000 per month. Because this is an all-in-one application, I also save a ton of headaches connecting apps and building automations, and the team at Go HighLevel does a great job of getting you started quickly and easily when you sign on. I cannot more highly recommend these guys. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners get a free 14-day trial of HighLevel CRM for themselves. Click the link in our show notes to support the show and get started on your free 14-day trial today. I'm super excited that today's show is brought to you by the Global School of Entrepreneurship. Most practicing entrepreneurs cannot take 2 years away from their growing business to attend a full-time campus-based program or spend every weekend away from family and business for a couple of years. Finally, there's an accredited program specifically designed for you to work on and grow your business while completing your MBA. The GSE MBA complements the needs and schedules of someone actively engaged in an entrepreneurial venture while still covering the accredited curriculum expected from any MBA program. The Global School of Entrepreneurship offers a unique offering called the Mastermind to MBA program. It consists of 10 students who work together in a forum-style cohort and meet every other week for a year. The GSE MBA helps you develop skills in critical thinking and strategic planning. Students also develop competencies in leadership, decision-making, and communication with both employees as well as the important stakeholders in your business. You will be exposed to world-class academics and fascinating guest lecturers. You'll work on your business while working in your business. Students are guided by real-world entrepreneurs with decades of experience starting and scaling businesses just like yours. Best of all, I'm beyond proud to announce that the Global School of Entrepreneurship has agreed to offer one Spear and Clover listener a scholarship to join an upcoming Mastermind to MBA cohort. They are looking for someone just like you to bring a unique perspective to the program, and they are accepting applications right now. To learn more and to apply, simply go to www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Don't miss this opportunity to level yourself up and surround yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs just like you. Once again, to apply for the GSE MBA Spear and Clover Scholarship, simply visit www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Today's show is brought to you by Scaling with Media. I mean, literally, like if it weren't for the folks at Scaling with Media, you would not be getting this. Scaling with Media is a truly revolutionary company for any entrepreneur who wants to reach a larger audience without taking on the years of experience necessary to master the required skills. These guys do it all. From helping you develop your creative plan to editing, sourcing content, copywriting, ads management, and way more. Whether you're looking to launch a YouTube channel or podcast, or you just want to scale your business out to more eyeballs, these guys are the absolute best one-stop shop. But that's not all. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners who sign up for their brand launch package will receive a free, that's right, free professional grade studio kit that I'm actually recording right now on. The studio kit includes a professional microphone, stand, lighting, and headphones, and is worth well over $500. Take action now by going to scalingwithmedia.com/spear and claim your free studio kit. Again, that's scalingwithmedia.com/spear, scalingwithmedia.com/spear. Now back to the show. Wow. It's just so fantastic to hear that. I grew up in a part of youth groups in our church and things like that. And we were building houses and we were regularly at the homeless shelter. And I think a part of that, it seems to me like that's how everybody grew up. And I think a lot of folks, that's just not the case. So the fact that you're able to pass this on to other folks that even aren't your children, that's great. So I do respect the heck out of that. That's pretty great. Okay. I saw an article about you, and the article mentioned this great resignation that's been going on throughout COVID. Do you know the article I'm talking about?
I think it was geared towards the insurance agent industry.
So there was something where you were trying to hire folks and they were saying it was better for them to be on unemployment than to work for you.
That was NPR. That was on NPR.
Yeah. And,
dude, this was hilarious.
Tell me more about that. Yeah.
So I'm driving back from downtown Detroit, right, to my house, and I'm listening to NPR. And I literally just gotten off the phone with somebody that was like, I was interviewing him, right, obviously over the phone. And I think this was actually before COVID, because there was something else that was like, there was another period of time where like, I think we were going a little big on the unemployment, and it was keeping people from looking for work. So I had just interviewed someone a day prior, and this person said to me at the end of the interview, "Are you paying me through payroll, or are you paying me cash under the table?" And I said, "So you're asking me if I'm going to pay you and absorb any tax deferment on my side so I can pay you and you can also avoid taxes?" Which I was just kind of translating what that statement meant to me. Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "Well, no." I go, "It's going to be through payroll." And the response was, "Well, I almost make that much on unemployment." And so he's like, "I don't know if it's going to really be a good fit." And I think I said at that point, I'm like, "Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a good fit. So, best of luck." It was a frustrating conversation. Like, I got off of it and I'm thinking to myself, like, isn't there something in place where like, if you're offered a job and you're on unemployment, that like you can no longer get it if you refuse to take a job. And I just remember like after the call, I was just incredibly frustrated. So like a day later, I hear NPR and they're like, business owners, what are some of the challenges that you're having with hiring people?
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to call them. So I called the show. I left a message. I forget which, because NPR does a bunch of different segments. I forget which one it was.
Sure.
I left a message and I kind of briefly told them the story. And then the next day I get a call back and they're like, we got your message. We're very intrigued by what you just said. And then 2 days after that, we were doing a segment together about that challenge. It was like, we're having a hard time bringing on staff. And I'm not saying that this is the only reason, but it absolutely is one of the contributors to that challenge.
Yeah. And it's interesting, if it really was pre-COVID, which sounds like it might have been, this is not something that has gotten smaller. It's gotten significantly more to be more of a problem. So as I don't know if I've mentioned to you before, but I spent the previous part of my career coaching brick and mortar gym owners. And so multiple of my clients would have struggle. I'm working with one right now who still has this struggle of hiring folks, identifying them, with core value fit and putting them in the right seats. And they'll either quit very quickly or they just are unable to find those people in the first place. I think it's been a very interesting time. And I didn't know if maybe you had some thoughts on what the causes of that were, whether it's something to do with unemployment or something to do with offering benefits even, or any of that, really.
I think we've evolved, Jason, to be quite frank, and I don't want this to turn into a political discussion, but I think we've evolved in a wrong direction. And like I said, that I know that interview, and that definitely predated COVID. This is not a new challenge for business owners. This is not a new challenge for entrepreneurs, right? And so what it's doing is it's putting entrepreneurs in a position where they are going to have to look at what is being offered from a government perspective, and they're not going to have to match it, right? Because if I'm a person of that mentality, right, where it's like, as long as I can get money, the least I can do to get money is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. If you're going to offer me a job that's that's the exact same amount, I'm going to tell you to go pound sand. I'm not going to go, why would I work for you?
Right, yeah.
And I can sit home and still get paid. And this is not a new concept. Everybody knows this, right? So then you have to go higher, right? You have to go above and beyond. And many people will look at that and say, okay, well, that's good. That means that you're paying a livable wage. It's like, okay, yeah, but let's look at the fast food industry. Like when I drive to Starbucks during COVID and they're telling you that they're only open from 11 o'clock in the morning till 2 p.m., it's like all of your business is done before 11 a.m. every day. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they do a great job in terms of pay and benefits and money for further education. Mm-hmm. So when that organization is struggling to find employees, that is a telling sign, right? Mm-hmm. And we're also talking about that industry I don't think the fast food industry was ever meant to, how do I phrase this? I don't think that industry was ever meant to support a family on that income unless you're, owning a franchise. That is an entry-level position that you use to get work experience, make a few dollars, and then take that experience and hopefully parlay that into a better position that's gonna pay you more money. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's very controversial, and I agree. I don't think there's necessarily politics to do with it. I think, though, that what we're facing is a very challenging time. Maybe organizations like Aspire will, prepare people to think about these things in a way that maybe will lead them towards bigger and better opportunities and, potentially taking a different path, right?
That's part of the goal, right? Part of the goal is to say, listen, a lot of people, I hear more now than I ever have heard that people deserve more and more and more without the willingness to grow themselves, right? Without the willingness to learn more. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in a position where you're more marketable, right? Where you add value to an organization, and then you use that to then leverage, right? If you make yourself, there's a way to make yourself unfireable from an organization, right?
Yes.
And that's just how much value you're adding and what are you going to do above and beyond what's asked of you? Because that's what they're looking for, right? Your level of reliability. We're big on say it, do it, right? If you say something, you do it. That lends towards your reliability and your integrity. These are things that aren't really taught a lot in school. These are concepts that kind of go missed. And so what we're saying is you're in complete control of your destiny, mm-hmm. but it takes work, right? And this is just a foundation of where you get started. Start to employ these techniques. Don't take my word for it. See the reaction in people when you start to embrace some of these techniques and start to use them on a regular basis. And then it's just getting the reps in. That's all it is, right? You know as well as I do, right? If you're going to try a new, revenue generation tactic as an entrepreneur, you don't just do it once, and if it doesn't work, you stop, right? You're planting seeds, right? You go plant 1,000 seeds, you might grow 100 trees, right? And from those 100 trees, 10 of them might bear fruit for you. But it doesn't mean you don't go plant the seeds and you don't get discouraged. I mean, I think that's what separates a lot of true entrepreneurs apart from those people that don't have that risk mentality. It's that most entrepreneurs, when they set their sights on a goal, they don't stop. They're relentless. They keep going and they'll keep pushing and they don't give up. And their threshold to giving up is much longer than most people. Most people will spend a week or two doing something. It didn't work. So this just isn't the right business. It's like, no, you got to talk to anybody that started a business. That's the antithesis of how they operate.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that. And you said unfireable. My word is undeniable, but it's the same idea. I've told every person that I've hired it for at least the last 5 years, if you make yourself undeniable, I promise we will not deny you. In other words, like find a place to fit in, find a place to go out and do it. The thing I love most about the way that you're presenting this information is it's one thing to say it. Hey, get out there and better yourself, find hard work, make yourself unfireable. It's a whole nother thing to then say, oh, and by the way, I've set up this organization to do just that for you and we'll do it for free. Just show up. Or even, maybe remotely. I love that. I love that about the position that you're sitting from and talking from, because I think it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to say, and that's why I've dedicated a good chunk of my life to helping those folks to understand what it takes to go out there and become unfireable. Because I feel like, although I don't have an organization like that, I feel the same way, where if somebody is out there willing to put effort in hard work towards improvement or towards building something, particularly from the entrepreneurs, there's nothing that I won't do for that person. Exactly. And I think that's a common thread that I find the more that I talk to folks like you and other folks that I've talked to on this show and personally. There are 2 questions, Anthony, that I ask everybody that comes on the show. The first question is, if you were given access to unlimited financial capital, how would you profitably, I'm going to kind of change it for you a little bit. How would you either profitably grow the business you have now, or how would you grow your organization? So I think the organization probably may be more apt. If you had access to unlimited capital, how would you grow the organization?
When you say the organization, you're talking about Altruis, correct?
And maybe give me an answer for each, because I think with your case,
okay,
a nonprofit obviously has a little bit of different kind of circumstance.
Absolutely. Well, we're a bit of a regional player. Altruis is in the state of Michigan. We've mined so much business in the state of Michigan that it's literally at some points, almost been overwhelming. We've never explored the opportunities outside, right? Becoming a nationwide broker as opposed to a regional broker. So, and you asked me that question, and it's funny because that's what I just brought on a COO, and that is what we're working on right now, is because now we have, it's not unlimited, but we have the resources of a publicly traded company behind us. And so and everything that we've put forth, every strategy that we've put forth during the earnout has worked exactly how we've intended it to. So that lends a lot of credibility to our parent company to say, hey, listen, you've told us you were going to do 3 or 4 things. You've done those 3 or 4 things. They've worked out as good, if not better than you said. What else do you need? And that's the position that you want to get to. And quite in that sidebar, that's the position of say it, do it, and putting that on yourself and saying, I'm not going to stop until I do it. And having that work ethic and that integrity to put yourself behind it, that is the value of that demeanor, right? So now we're in a position where we are going to be utilizing that capital from the parent company to expand outside the state of Michigan, start to recruit existing agencies into kind of our model. We're looking to also go through some acquisitions outside of that to wrap them into our model. So by growth, by acquisition, we are going to be growing. I would take that money, I would grow outside the state of Michigan because what we do in Michigan works. There are some nuances from state to state with respect to licensing and products, but the Affordable Care Act pretty much made it a commodity, right? So we operate very well in that environment now. We know it very well. We turn that adversity into an opportunity, and we capitalized on it quite well. So that's the first thing. We're also going to be, we've always been a health, life, disability shop. So we're going to be expanding those services to our existing clients, which are in the thousands on the property casualty side. So we're looking to also add another huge market that we can throw, that we can introduce into our client channel that we think is just we've already got the clients, right? We've got that trust. We've got that relationship. Now it's a matter of providing other opportunities for them and deepening that relationship. So that's what I would say on the Altruis side is kind of the situation we're in now. And that's what we're pursuing. And my goal, these guys made a great offer to us. My goal has always been to leave them with a better business than they bought. Mm-hmm. And we will achieve that. My earnout ends this September. So we're definitely going to achieve that for them. It's exciting.
Yeah.
On the Aspire side, we started with a model that was in person, and I'm the only person teaching it, right? So there's only one Anthony. And then you realize really quick, how many schools can Anthony teach and run a business, at the same time? And the answer is not a lot. So the feedback that we've gotten from our students is incredible. The feedback that we've gotten from people that are involved is incredible. So there's a lot of it. There's a lot of encouragement to scale this. And so I think on that side, if I had unlimited capital, we'd really look towards figuring out a way to market and deliver right to the parents or right to the students, no matter where they are. Because it doesn't matter what school district you're in. It doesn't matter. We're focusing on high school age kids. We're putting content and soft skills in front of them that are going to benefit them when they leave high school, whether they go directly to the workforce, whether they go to a trade program, whether they go to college and it's a 4-year degree. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is preparing them for that. And most of, if not all of the students that participate acknowledge that they're not being taught this stuff. So I would utilize those funds to really develop either on my own or partner with a group that can get a very good, usable, repeatable, and simplified web-based platform where we can engage with students all across the country when we're in session. Kind of like how Tony Robbins pivoted from stadiums to, you ever see his screens that he has set up during COVID? Like he's sitting in a room and he's got like a whole flipping wall of just screens with people on it.
Yep.
And that guy's a perfect example of no one's ever going to make that dude quit. You can throw anything in front of that guy. He's going to pivot and figure it out. And that was one of the most impressive things I've seen by a very impressive human being is, hey, this guy makes his living being in stadiums with hundreds, if not thousands of people. He can't do it anymore. What's he going to do? It's like, here's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So, I think we would go down that path to really introduce the program to a broader audience.
Yeah. And we've seen that across the country. Administering to brick and mortar gym owners, everybody made their entire bread and butter was having people in the gym, working out, doing class. And we helped dozens and dozens of gyms pivot to, offering remote services like that. And same thing with a big TV screen. You could see we had like 25 people logged into the Zoom and you're doing the class and using the headphones and stuff. So
here's the other thing too with respect to Aspires, right? Is like, for better or for worse, young, children now in all grades have been, have collectively and at the same time been exposed to a virtual learning environment. Mm-hmm. Is that the best environment? I don't believe so. I believe in-person learning is always the best because when I'm online with my kids, I'm like, hey guys, cameras on, eyes up. Like I need to know that you're participating because you've enrolled in this, you've expressed an interest in this, and now I'm giving you my time, which is my most valuable asset. I need to know that you're paying attention. It's obviously easier to do that in a room than through a phone or through a computer. But fact of the matter remains, they still have now been exposed to that. So if there's a way to do it, and now I see now that I can still be in Michigan and deliver, but if there's another channel for me to expand this outside the state of Michigan, then we want to take advantage of it because we want to deliver it to as many young adults as we can.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's just a fast forward button on what was probably already going to start to happen here soon anyway.
100%.
And at least now the economics of building an app or a platform are much, much more attainable too. So especially for you guys, that's super helpful. The second question that I ask everybody is if you had to stop all of the businesses that you've done in the past, including the organization you run now, and you had to start a new business tomorrow that you've never been in before, what do you think that might be?
I'd probably say real estate development.
Yeah.
I've been, another business, that I started a while back that I exited was just a real estate investment group. I started with some colleagues that, just wanted to get out of and because it was taking a lot of time and energy, but I still have a pretty good real estate portfolio. Now I learn more and more about it. I'm actually working with a developer now on a property down in Mexico and learning more, not just in Michigan, but not in the States, but even like in other countries. So I'm talking to these guys, I'm learning more about it. And I'm realizing that these developers have very good backgrounds in construction, but what they're also are is they're very good leaders. And what you find is it's, the challenge, especially right now, like if you and I were to go like say, hey, I'm going to just decide to go to an architect, have them drop a house. I'm going to go sub that out myself and see how successful I'm going to be. But you're going to fall flat on your face trying to find subcontractors to go develop a property, right? Like it's just, the best ones are few and far between. The ones that are very good are, they're booked years out. And I've experienced that here in the States. Like, hey, what if I want to develop? Oh, we're 2 years out, before we can even bring someone on. There's limitations in supply chain, there's limitations in material, there's limitations in workforce and labor. So the most successful people in those businesses are also the best leaders. They are very good at keeping people together. It's like keeping a jazz band together, right? You got different personalities. They all think they're the best at what they do. Trying to keep that together is very difficult. I'm a big jazz fan. So I look at Wynton Marsalis, who runs the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, as not only just a virtuoso and one of the best jazz musicians to ever walk the earth, but this guy's also an incredible eye for talent. He's an incredible leader, and he, tours the world with a jazz orchestra, and he develops these young musicians, and they end up going off and having incredible, successful individual careers. I think that all boils down to leadership, and I think I'm not the best leader on the block, but I've learned a ton over the last 2 decades of running my business, and I do have a skill set in developing teams. I do have a skill set in keeping them happy, keeping them productive, and rewarding them for that. And that's one thing that I think if anybody listening to this has a problem with attrition, I'd encourage them to take a look at what the market is providing for those people. And if they're leaving, they're typically leaving for 1 or 2 reasons. They don't feel valued, or that they feel like they can do better financially somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're taking those 2 things out of the equation and you're treating these people as peers and not subordinates, I think you're going to be a lot more successful.
That's a great answer. I do appreciate it. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on. Before we wrap up, just one more time, plug everything you got. Plug the business, plug the everywhere. And how do we get in contact with you? There are definitely going to be folks that want to reach out after this.
Absolutely. So the company is Altruis Benefit. That's ALTRUIS Benefit, no S on the end.com. And we're one of the largest individual brokerages in the state of Michigan. And then Aspire Detroit, www.aspire.detroit.org is the charity. We're a registered 501c3. We've been doing this now for 3 years, worked with dozens and dozens of students. And we're looking for people in that route. We're looking for financial assistance. We're looking for technology partners to collaborate with and start to explore a new way of delivering this. And we're also looking for businesses that specifically in the Michigan market that could contribute internships and employment opportunities for some of our students. So yeah, those are the 2 entities. And I really appreciate, Jason, you giving me this opportunity to talk about them and shine a spotlight on them. I truly do.
No problem, man. Anytime anything's going on with that, please feel free, reach out. We'd love to have you back on. Anthony, thank you again so much. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to show us some love by liking, rating, and subscribing so we can keep making more and better content. If you'd like to support the show and get a great additional content like exclusive shows and even live group masterminds, please head over to patreon.com/Spear and Clover to become a member of the tribe. If you're interested in learning more about how we help entrepreneurs, visit spearandclover.com or message us on any of our platforms. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.